the first time in history either party has ever put forward this all-female leadership team.
And all-female communications team, senior communications team, this is a first, history-making.
These roles, which are typically held by men a lot of the time, it's just nothing is going to be traditional in this White House. Expect the unexpected and expect to see a lot more diversity.
Let's bring in Sarah Sanders, Fox News contributor, former White House press secretary, and author of the book Speaking for Myself. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So where was the praise when President Trump appointed all these women? You, Hope Hicks, Mercedes Schlapp, Stephanie Grisham, Kayleigh McEnany, Alyssa Farah. Where was the praise then?
You know, that's something I've often wondered. Look, I was the very first mom to ever serve as the White House press secretary. And instead of all the praise that they're lapping on to these appointments, we got actually attacked relentlessly by the media. President Trump not only empowered me, but he empowered other women to vary a number of senior roles in the administration, working moms. And he didn't get praise for it. He got attacked for it, and so did we. I've often said, and I'll continue to say it, Democrats always want to talk about the war on women, but the real war being waged against women is by Democrats and the media that attack conservative women and anybody who has supported this president. It is absolutely outrageous, and the media bias is on full display, and I think it is absolutely absurd and sad what they're doing, and I think what we can expect them to continue to do, unfortunately.
So you don't think any of these women will have trouble eating in a restaurant or dropping their kids off at school? Sarah, they don't think any of these women will need, I hope, Secret Service protection like you?
Yeah, my guess is they'll all be, given softball questions and praised for the fact that they showed up for work. Again, not only was I the first mom, but the other two press secretaries that followed me were also moms. This is a president who has empowered women and empowered working moms in his administration and actually put forward policies that help women across the country do better. We saw more women going back to work. We saw more women taking on bigger roles and jobs across the country under this administration. He never got praised for it, and I think it is absolutely outrageous that this is taking place.
Yeah. Sarah, what did you make of the fact, speaking of press teams, the Biden press team announced yesterday that apparently on Saturday, the former vice president, president-elect, broke part of his foot playing with his dog, they said, but he didn't go to the hospital or didn't go to the doctor for the scans and stuff until a day later. And we were talking to Joe Conch a little while ago about how some MSNBC reporters say that the Biden team wasn't as forthcoming as they should have been. What do you make of the transparency there?
Well, my guess is they'll give them a free pass like they've done on everything else during the campaign over the last year and a half. They don't push for questions. We saw them celebrating, a group of journalists in the press pool celebrating that they got Donald Trump to answer a question. He's the most accessible president in U.S. history. Getting him to answer a question is not a heroic feat. But getting Joe Biden to answer a question would be. I hope that they will push him, hold him accountable, and ask him real questions and do that of his team around him over the coming weeks. And certainly at least try to put some of the pressure that they constantly put on this president day in and day out.
Let's talk about the divide in the Democratic Party. Remember when AOC posted that picture of her giving the death stare to Joe Manchin from behind? That's the picture. She posted that on November 12th. Well, Joe Manchin was interviewed by the New York Times. They went into his office, and he was working on the coronavirus relief package and was interviewed. And he talked about the numbers were so close. He said, there was a point where I was wondering questioning myself, should I even be a lawmaker? Should I get out? He said now he's happy that they're more centrist in the Democratic Party, and he feels like he can work with some of these Republicans like Mitt Romney and Murkowski and Susan Collins. So he said this to the reporter. He says, talking about AOC, I guess she put the dagger stare on me. I don't know the young lady. I really don't. I never met her. I'm understanding. She's not that active with her bills or in committee. She's more active on Twitter than anything else. Is that true? Is that the rumor in D.C., or is that actuality in D.C.?
Certainly, I think that that's the belief of a lot. But what Joe Manchin may not know, and I think the really big takeaway here, is AOC is actually controlling a large base of the Democrat Party. They have moved so far to the left. That is the future of who the Democrat Party is, and that's the direction that they have decided to go. And one of the main figureheads that they've decided that will represent their party, whether he likes it or not, AOC represents where their party is right now, and that is the far radical left. The Democrats, like Joe Biden and others, have shown they're either too weak or too incapable of standing up to that far left of their party, and will continue to cave to them day after day as they have over the last year and a half. Maybe
if he comes to that reality, he'll become a Republican and make everybody in West Virginia happy, because the president wins by like 100,000 points in West Virginia. Sarah Sanders, thanks so much.